Welcome to How to Optimize with Microsoft Clarity. This is a very special edition of our Workshop Wednesday. I am Julie Roddy, the Director of Measurement for measureU. I've been building actual dashboards for a really long time, almost 2 decades now, which is insane to say, but actually got started inside of the manufacturing world. So I had to build dashboards for people that are, building stuff on the lines, like the regular product managers, all the way to teams and directors and all these CEOs and the owners, building dashboards for all of them and really understanding how people see their dashboards in lots of different ways. And I joined measureU team in 2015 and been teaching measurement marketing since 2017. And as Mercer will tell you too, we're finally really posting on LinkedIn, just because we're finally getting there. So let's go ahead and actually talk about how to optimize with Microsoft Clarity. As we go through any one of the trainings, especially this week in our open house week, we want to remind you of the one thing rule. And that is you get one thing that you could take and apply from this training, and then come back, watch this video again later, and apply it to something else. So before we begin, we always go through something we call our measurement marketing framework. I'm going to go through this really, really quickly. And the reason I'm going to do that, even though we're going to talk about clarity, is because what I'm going to teach you here in this next minute is going to help you unlock how to use Microsoft Clarity or any sort of analytics tool. And so we're going to walk through that real quick. So inside your measurement marketing framework, everyone starts out in the blind. They don't know what is working and what is not working. They want to be able to reliably grow their revenue and profits, meaning they want to know what action to take to make things work the way they're freaking supposed to. But a lot of us are in the blind. We don't know what exactly is working. And here is the foundational things that you need to do is plan, build, and launch. In order to do the plan, right here, you have questions, information you need to answer the questions, and actions you're going to take. The biggest piece of advice I'm going to get you, if you don't get anything out of this, I hope your one thing is, if you cannot take action, then you need to ask different questions, because otherwise you're going to build stuff that you don't necessarily need and waste your time. And so this question piece is going to be vital when we're using a tool like Microsoft Clarity or any sort of other analytical tool. So that way, any tool that's giving you data, you need to know what questions that you're asking so that you can make sure that you can get the right information and be able to take action. Once you know what actions you're going to take with it, you need to understand the results, which could be conversions or key events or whatever it is that you're talking about, to tie it to traffic so that you can know which ad is working, which one's not, or email, or whatever SEO type thing that you're doing, and then make sure it's telling a story, meaning cross-domain is set up or anything else. And then you got to do the fun stuff, which is listen, forecast, and the most fun part is optimize, which is where we're at here in Microsoft Clarity. So the reason I wanted to go through this with you real quick is because we wanted to know exactly kind of where we're starting. And because we're going to end up here with our optimize, we can't really optimize unless we know what our questions are. So that is, again, the measure marketing framework. And if you're like, ooh, I want to dive in deeper, there are other materials out there in measureU to help you go through this. Just drop a question and we can guide you to where that's at. But let's go ahead and double check exactly what is Microsoft Clarity before we dive in case you or someone on your team doesn't exactly know. So Microsoft Clarity is a heat map and recording tool, and plus it does a whole lot more, which you can obviously go through and see. It is 100% free. Yeah, seriously, it's free, and it says it's going to be free forever. There isn't a plus version or anything like that right now. It is completely free. It is really easy to install and use. You can get set up in minutes, and it starts collecting data right away. And so just in a few hours, if you have enough traffic, you can go through and start seeing people. My favorite part is it's always on, because like a lot of heat mapping tools, you have to tell it, I need you to record a heat map on here. So if your client all of a sudden decides to pop up new blogs or new pages or whatever it is that you're trying to do, and you don't know about it, or you constantly have to be reactive instead of proactive, Clarity kind of really helps you take that out because it's always there. And it doesn't slow down your site, which again, other heat map tools can do, just because it is another script. But as of right now, Clarity does not do that. And they're working really hard and they stay compliant. So obviously that depends on where you're at. But Clarity, just like Google, because they are the bigger companies, they are going to get hit first with lawsuits for not following the rules. So they're going to make sure that you are following the rules. So that's just another big benefit of this tool. So that's just a gist of what Clarity is. If anyone's wondering, like, what are we talking about? That's what it is. So let's go ahead and now hop into Microsoft Clarity so we can dive into the things that we're talking about. How do we optimize? And so we are here inside what we call the Microsoft Clarity dashboard. And one of the cool things that you can do is like you can go through and do all kind of things with filters and all of this other stuff. But we'll get to this in here in just a moment. I'm just going to let you kind of see like there's so many cool things that you can do. But let's take a very, 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 very basic approach where we want to see kind of what is happening on our homepage. And so we're just going to click on that link, and then I'm going to jump over to a heat map just to kind of understand possibly what could be going on. And it's going to take a hot sec to load. And by default, you might be seeing some sort of clicks, and we're going to give it a second to load sometimes, especially while we're recording with all the different recording tools. And I can also change our screenshot to grab something a little bit better. Um, give it a moment. This is always fun to teach live with these kind of tools. Let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to go ahead and change my date to be, there we go. Get more and more people in our room. Here we go. Let's go ahead and change this and go back. There we go. Here we go. We're going to choose this one. We had probably made too many changes in that big date range and it was freaking out about that. So we're going to bounce back and forth. So our clicks, what we're able to see very easily when thinking of optimization, remember the very first thing we have to know is what questions do we have? And so this is our homepage. So a question for our homepage could be, what are people clicking on? And so, again, kind of thinking of our framework, well, what action could we take? Well, is if they're not clicking on this call to action, then maybe we should make the button bigger or change the text or something else. Maybe we should optimize it if they're not clicking on that button because we're expecting a certain amount to click on the button. Or if you're ever wondering, what is this little block here? That is a video. And so that's just something else that you'd see because it obviously the video could change and change the screenshot and all that stuff there. So, kind of going through our questions like, well, what are they clicking on? So the very first thing they're clicking on is actually to go log into the community, which actually makes sense for that. And then the second thing that they're clicking on is kind of clicking on this headline, which is interesting. Then our programs, and we could go through and go see everything else that they're clicking on too. We'll talk more about clicks here in a little bit, but now we have our scroll. And this is a scroll, and this other guy right here is one of the the attention map is one of the newest features. Because scroll, while really useful, can be kind of almost redundant or not as useful as what we would want it to be. So this is again homepage. We just saw with the clicks that majority of the people are clicking on that community login. So how can we kind of optimize this page? Well, how can we understand what the users are doing on this page to answer our question? And what we want to do is take action. And so what we are seeing here is that people are staying above the fold, which makes sense for the homepage and makes sense because their things they're clicking on the nav. But what if we wanted to know, like, are they even paying attention to certain things? Obviously, if you use Google Tag Manager, you know there are things that you can say. Did they see this? Did they see this for 3 seconds? It's element visibility for anyone who's wondering. You're able to do that. But what if we don't have Tag Manager? What if we don't want to learn that part just yet? Well, there's a thing called attention maps that allows you to kind of see the different parts and pieces of a page. You can see this over here where it's changing different colors, where you can see by comparison to the rest of the page what someone might be doing. So I'm going to scroll out just again so you can see that, how it's changing different colors. So just like, ooh, hey, there we go. So just like your regular hot and cold, and you can see that there's, the least amount of time is this blue, the most amount of time is this red, and you see a number like this one says 2:05, and so that's 2 seconds and 500 milliseconds or whatever that is, and so you're not going to care much about the time. That is rule. Don't care about the time. What you do is care about the time compared to something else. So all we know is, hey, they spent more time up here compared to down here. Let's go back to our scroll. Remember, everything was up here. Like, oh man, there's a bunch of people down, up here. But we know that because they clicked off to the community and they clicked off to the programs. But of the people that may be trying to figure out who we are and aren't, logging in and aren't really checking out the programs, what did they go look at? So they ignored all of this. But they stopped here when we got to these reviews and these testimonials. So if we go to our homepage, we can actually go through and see what that little piece is. And so videos, that kind of makes sense. They would slow down and watch the videos there and see some of this copy here. So one thing that we could take from this, if our goal was for them to take action after here, like I could go to our optimization, our offers team and say, hey, they're really slowing down at this piece. They're slowing down here. They're paying attention. Maybe we should put a call to action here to get them to take the next step, and then possibly put it right below the, like right below the fold or something like that, or rearrange the position of it because they're completely ignoring all this. They don't care about that, but they saw the videos, and they're paying attention to this. They probably weren't paying attention to that little element that this guy here, but they did seem to be paying attention to the videos. And so that is just a very, very simple way of how we can be like, okay, they're paying attention. Let's duplicate this kind of thing. It could be, oh, we need more videos, or hey, there's paying attention here. We don't have a call to action right next to it. Let's make sure we add that. So that's a very, very simple way that we can do that. So next little example that we're going to go through is going to be something for you content marketers or anyone that needs to understand how their content pieces are working. So right now I'm already looking at a kind of a bigger date range, and we're filtering by one of our blog pages. So again, I just went through here, changed my date, and I chose which page I wanted. So that's how we're showing our different little filters up here. And then I can choose to go to our heat maps again. And there are all kind of other really, really cool features that you can go through and say, AI, I want you to summarize my heat maps. You can go to the recordings and it can summarize the recordings for you and all of that other stuff if you want to kind of go through and see those features. But for the sake of this recording and understanding how to optimize with Microsoft Clarity, we want to just make sure you kind of see these pieces. So once again, we can see what people are clicking on. So the number 1, 2, and 3, this is the first number 1 click, second click, and third click. You'll see these other numbers next to them. So that's the number of clicks that they're actually doing, and then the percentage of the total clicks. So if, a million people clicked on things because there's so many other different clicks, then obviously this percentage would be much lower. So it's not percentage of people that see, but it's percentage of the clicks. And so which is very important to kind of understand the percentages if you're comparing, like if it's clicking to go to the cart, and you're thinking that oh, you get 13% to the cart. No, that's not exactly what that's saying. It's comparing it to that number there. All right, so we're looking again at the clicks. It really kind of depends on how your sales page or your offer page or your blog page or your content pieces are built, because you can see like this one goes all the way down here. And that's just because it's the way the WordPress site is built. Sometimes you have these big elements, and it could be from people, scrolling or tapping or whatever it is, touch screens. And using that. That's kind of what those little guys are. And we are looking at desktop, and you could switch to mobile, which is always insanely helpful to kind of understand how the mobile user views the page. If you're not already viewing your mobile pages as a mobile user, highly, highly, highly encourage you to do so. So you can kind of see and experience it like them. We don't get much mobile traffic, so we don't necessarily do that. But for our clients, we absolutely do for that. So when we come through here again, we're just kind of seeing what are people clicking on because our question is this page doing what it's supposed to? Again, going back to our framework, and let's say our question is, let's say we have a call to action at the very, very end of this page that we want people to become members. I don't know if this is it or not, but it's like, hey, like let's go get you let's say this is some sort of freebie or something like that. We want to know people are actually coming down here and doing that. And so that's what we're trying to figure out. And so right now we're looking at our clicks. We can kind of, like we did before, go through and see what is it that they're clicking on. But let's go to our scroll because if our call to action that we just, said is at the very bottom, let's see with our scroll how many people are actually getting there. And this blog actually does quite well of getting people to continue to scroll. You can see we're still at the 90%. We start dropping a little bit. And so we can then take this information, just a little side note, we could take this information and we could compare this page to other blogs, other blog pages, other date ranges, and all of those other things to see, well, which blog might get people to scroll farther, click more, and all of that stuff. I'll double check something. Okay. And then we can keep going down farther. And let's see again, because our call to action, like we're only like a little bit farther than halfway, and we're at 25%. Man, of these over 2,000 users, you start doing math here. Oh my goodness. Okay, we finally got here. Let's say this, pretend this was our call to action. And let's say our number that we want 30% to click through, and we're only getting not even 7% to even see the call to action. Well, crap, that's not going to work. Let's see what else they're doing. Let's go to our attention map and see what maybe they're paying attention to. We can then go through again. Love the brand new attention map. This is just so new. You can go through and see, well, what is it that they're slowing down and paying attention to, and you're like, well, why are we talking about the call to action? But I want to let you just give a second to be like, oh, I get what you're saying. Where they're slowing down and paying attention to, we can massage the copy and put the call to action that we're looking for because they're paying attention to, they're naturally slowing down. Obviously, we can, as a copywriter, or if anyone is a copywriter, you can show this to your copywriter and be like, hey, they're really liking this stuff or whatever it is that's going on here, the design of it, whatever it is. But for you as the measurement marketer, you're like, I need people to see this. So if we adjusted to go through and say like, okay, we want it to be around this point where this analytic script, we can go back to our number of here to our scroll and see kind of like, let's go back and here's analytic script. Nearly 70, almost 77% would be seeing that call to action if we were to do that. Obviously, you're going to want it to make sense and not be too aggressive with it, whatever it is that works for you. But you can go through and see what is it that your user is actually paying attention to, and going through there. And you could possibly throw in a couple of different calls to action throughout the page and see which one is getting the more clicks. And then obviously which ones are they slowing down with after you go through an ad, and you could go through and optimize. We're like, okay, no, they really don't like the first one, but they really like the one that we put in the middle because they're ready for it. We kind of been prepped for it. They're like, I need that. I need that guide. I need that free thing. I need to go see your affiliate and click through and buy the makeup that you're suggesting that I buy, and go through with this. And so this is just, again, amazing piece for content marketing. Now going over into another quick example in our last few moments of teaching, we have, again, big date range. Then we have when we were doing our meta ads course, we just did a meta ads course last month that was live, and we sold the live portion to it. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into, again, our heat maps and what we were able to kind of discern. This page actually did not convert the way we wanted it to. So we have a dashboard with GA4 data and all of that. And what we were seeing is that the page was not getting people to the cart. So our question we came to clarity with was, why aren't they going to the cart? We see the second most clicked on thing is this button where they're choosing to enroll now, but then we come down to where it would take them. Here, they're like, whoa, I don't want to. Like, what's going on? Is it the price or what could it be? All of these different things. And then this is where we were able to kind of go through and discern, again, with scroll and attention heat maps, is look at this. They jumped straight down, and they spent most of their time here. So, what we learned from this is perhaps don't give them the anchor point right away. Allow them to go through. And we also did learn, let me see if I can actually pull this page up live. We did learn, because this is actually a funny thing, and this is a pro optimization tip for everybody here, because we saw it for this on us, and we saw it for a client, and we saw it for a student. The consistent data points for three different examples is when you have your benefits hidden like these things here, we continuously saw people not interacting with them. And the way that we were able to confirm that is we were able to see through our click data and our attention maps, no one is slowing down and interacting with these things. We did talk about like, oh, we could have a little arrow or indicate, kind of get the user to, use these things. But we just chose to the next time that we're doing this, we're just going to have the benefits there and not have this interaction. But that was just a really, really, really useful thing that we found through Microsoft Clarity is they weren't seeing the freaking benefits and they were hitting this anchor button way too fast. And the attention maps really showed us this. Again, your regular old heat maps that we're used to, that we probably all have been using with Crazy Egg, Hotjar, and all these other tools for years and years and years, they told us, we're going to zoom way out. I'm going to hyper zoom out real quick. We're seeing, yep, they're scrolling. We're getting 40%. We're still, we're still getting a decent amount. Okay, we're at 33-ish% that are seeing the product, which is decent for a sales page. And then we would expect, okay, if we get half the click through, holy crap, that's a great conversion rate from a sales page to a cart for a price point like this. Like I would expect that for a really cheap price, under $50, under $30. But for a $500 or $1,000, if half the people click through, fantastic. But that's definitely not what happened. It was like 1 or 2% were clicking through. But it was because they were skipping all this copy, but the heat map didn't show us that. But the attention map was telling us that, very screaming at us, like they ignored all of the copy, all of it, until they slowed down right here, bonuses, which is interesting. So to me, it makes me think that they came up here, they're like, well, that's what I really want. And so, yeah, it absolutely told us get rid of that anchor point, or possibly email and other things need to do a better job of prepping them to come in here to purchase as well. And so those are just the easy, super simple ways that we can go through and understand how to optimize with Microsoft Clarity. Now, if you don't have a dashboard, or maybe your client isn't quite ready for Google Analytics or Tag Manager or anything like that, Clarity does have this option. It's called funnels. And you can go through and create a funnel. And it is insanely easy. There's other content pieces out there inside measureU that shows you exactly how to do this. It takes just a few minutes. And I'm actually going to get rid of this filter real quick so we can see. And so you can go through and see how many people started. And then of the people that started, how many people went to the next page? In this case, this is what it is. And it's 34. The most beautiful thing that you can do with this and say, I want to see the people that did not reach this step. So I can say, click on here. I want to see a heat map. And because I want to see about the sales page, this is the one I'm going to click on. And now I'm looking at the people that saw the sales page but did not go to the cart. What were they doing on this sales page that they did not go to the cart? So clearly they were paying attention with that. Let's see what else they kind of slow down. And so like kind of seeing that they saw this part, but again, I can go through real quickly and see what they're not paying attention to, or possibly what else could we see that they're doing. The clicks. Remember that magical piece? We can also go through this is if you don't have FAQs on your sales pages, highly encourage you to do so because you can get some magical information about what people are clicking on with your FAQs to understand possibly what they might have questions about too. So that's another fun pro tip of how do you optimize. Well, if everyone's clicking on one of your FAQs, that maybe you need to address it sooner or clarify it somewhere else above the page. So, those are the pro tips on how to optimize with Microsoft Clarity. So, what was your one thing? Remember to go ahead and use hashtag one thing or hashtag measureU. You can use it inside of measureU. You can use it on LinkedIn or your socials or whatever it is. Let us know your hashtag one thing. We have not announced it, but we're going to have some sort of special prize. I don't know if it's going to be a daily prize or a end of the week prize, but just say it's going to be something really fun and awesome, and it may or may not be an accelerator membership. So just do your one things and measureU. And we'll be taking a peek and looking for those throughout the week. And so let's go ahead and talk about your questions. I see some things popping in chat. Oh, can you share the links on? Oh, okay, links for the measureU for funnels. Okay, so you're asking, how do you do the funnels? So if you go to your workshop library, and I am going to give it a sec. Oh, yes, I need those attention heat maps. And this tool, the attention heat maps are probably just barely over a month old, maybe 2 months old by now. Yeah, it is absolutely insane. And so, if you want to know how to set up Microsoft Clarity, there's a workshop on that. But I'm looking for, because I did it when it first, here it is, how to create a funnel with Microsoft Clarity. So this is the workshop. So that one, and if you wanted a longer course, there is one down here as well, Microsoft Clarity there. This one does not talk about the attention heat maps and stuff. And technically the other one doesn't either because it wasn't there, but there are workshops here for you for that. So then here's this other one, attention heat maps. And this was just in our baby days of using it. You all here got the updated version because we're like realizing how powerful this attention heat maps thing is for everybody. And Mercer just spoke at Social Media Marketing World last week, and everyone else was just as like, oh my goodness. Yeah, like the attention heat maps is a game changer for this as well because you realize like, oh, okay. And then Nathan is asking, could we touch on the Chrome extension plugin? So I'm going to actually, everyone's like, what is he talking about? Chrome extension, Microsoft Clarity. So the reason, if anyone's like, why is she typing in? We really believe that we should teach you to fish. We're not going to give you a fish. We're going to teach you to fish. So if you're like, if I ever have a question about something, this is exactly where I'm going. Like, what are we talking about? I obviously know what we're talking about. And yes, I do misspell things sometimes. And so I'm just going to show you if you were wondering about it too, this is how you would go through and do that. So here is the Clarity page is going to kind of walk you through it. And here it is with this. And I actually took it off of my plugged in ones. Maybe manage extensions. Did I take it off? I might have taken it off completely. So for me, I have a suspicion. This is me being completely open and honest with you because I'm never going to steer you wrong. I have a suspicion it's been slowing down my Chrome browser. So if you add it, like you can go through and see all the things it could do. It basically what it does, it allows you to kind of get a little bit more real time with your heat maps and kind of interact with it inside of your page a little bit more. I've obviously grown up with in the past few years of Clarity being a thing inside of the actual Clarity tool that we just saw. Um, and so you absolutely can utilize this Chrome extension if you want to as well. But if you see your Chrome browser starting to slow down and just be a little bit clunkier, maybe remove it and see if it helps. So I've added and removed it like twice now. And I'll be definitely chatting with their team. Like we have a great relationship with their team. And this is brand new. It has only been out. It says updated September 2024, but it hasn't been actually truly public that long. Um, but hopefully they can make some improvements to it so it doesn't keep at making it slower, or maybe it's conflicting with something else and we can figure out which one it is. But it is kind of neat. So we can go through and we're going to add it real fast and we could see the thingy thing. It only allows you to have access to a whoever you're logged in as, whoever this person is. So this is Julie at Measure Holdings, which is our parent company. It only allows you to access that. So I'm going to go through and pin you so we can see. So if I went to Chewy.com for anyone who's ever seen me live teach. Chewy is one of my favorite things to go to. They're not a client or anything, it's just something. I'm a big animal fan. Lots of rescue dogs, and so we get some recurring orders on here. And so if I came in here and I try to click on, you don't have, you don't have access to that. But if I went to Measure U and clicked on this guy, you can see before I even did that, it's like, hey, we can see, let's check out our heat maps. Again, really cool to interact while you're here. But if you start having issues with your Chrome, but it might just be a me thing because like the type of things that we teach and we're in a lot, like Looker Studio and Google Analytics, those are Chrome browser like they just take up so much freaking RAM that it might be just a combination of what I'm doing, and maybe you don't have that issue. But I would love actually everyone go do that and test it out for a few days, and then let me know inside of Measure U. It's like, hey, Julie, it's just you. My Chrome browser's working just fine. Or if everyone else has the issue, I can take it straight to our Microsoft Clarity reps and be like, hey guys, what are we doing? What can we fix this? And there's another question, a fantastic question. He's like, is Clarity free for websites with very large traffic volumes? Does it have limits? Fantastic question. So, short answer, I'm going to let some more people in. Short answer, yes, Clarity is free. And I'm actually going to pop over into their site. And you could see it says, yes, it's free. It's 100% free, free forever. I used to have a site where it's like pricing, like, yeah, yes, it's free forever. Yes, there it is, free forever. And then where you can go through and see the limits is I'm actually going to pop into this piece here. So your heat maps, you have heat map data for a year. This is kind of where you're like, oh, it's free. Your heat map data is there for a year. Your recording data is only there for 30 days. But guess what? You can always download the data if you wanted to. If you're like, hey, I want you to summarize my, top 10 recordings or whatever it is, or there's so many different things you can go through and download the recordings, download the heat maps, screenshot it, and I'm going to show you something. Clarity really has a fun humor. Like the people there are just really fun. Like I just did this. This was part of an April Fool's joke that they did. Can you guys see this? It says some users were vibing with the Academy Insiders page, clicking on stuff like join now and signing up. Slay, which is totally not my generation to say slay. My kids would be cringing. But yes, so they have a big humor, like giving it social butterfly vibes, and all of this fun stuff. And yeah, if you know, you know. So they do have a big sense of humor. I don't know when this fun lingo is going to go away, but it's been fun to see for the past week with that. So, and then, yeah, so the limits, just kind of circling back to the limits recordings, you have your data for a month, but you can download and all that, blah, blah. And heat maps, you have it for a year. And I touched on it saying you have the ability for it, where we talked about the different filters and stuff, but you can go through and say, I want to see the traffic from, you could see, I want to see traffic for Facebook first. And then when you go through and compare, kind of like we did with our heat maps, you can say Facebook versus TikTok, or, email versus, affiliate one versus affiliate two traffic. And there's so many different things that you can do and compare, because maybe affiliate one is getting, banging it out with the conversion rate, but affiliate two is not. And maybe it's their messaging. They're like, hey, they're not even get past the fold. What are you telling them in your messaging? Because maybe it's a completely disconnect, and you'd be able to show it to them, like, hey, they're not really scrolling. Let's adjust your messaging, what you're sending them to, and we can get that fixed for you. And you can easily see that. And it's just so the hashtag one thing I need Microsoft Clarity, hashtag no duh. Absolutely. It is one of those new things, and everyone, once they start seeing it, you're like, oh my goodness. And it's free. And it is completely free. It's insanely easy to get set up. One of my favorite parts that they do too, and I don't see any hands up, and I'm watching the chat. But they do have lots of other things that you can do. Like, GA4 has custom events. They have smart events where you can go through if you wanted to set something up. I just mentioned the funnels before, and your setup. Like, so if you're like, I want to get the tracking code, and you go through and all that stuff, or you like view instructions, it's gonna kind of go through and blah blah blah. And there's other ways where you can go through. Um, if you're like, use another platform, and it could say, oh, I want to use it because I'm using WordPress and WooCom, it's going to walk you through step by freaking step on exactly how to set up. I'd say it's almost demi-proof, but you can probably give it to your teenager and be like, go set up Microsoft Clarity for me. And they would be able to do it. Obviously, they could follow along with our videos and the trainings, but they can definitely do it. And then you, as the incredibly intelligent measurement marketer, would be able to see these insights a lot faster. But the big pro tip for you is to come to clarity with your questions. Because if you're just going to poke around and be like, what is it gonna, nothing's going to pop out to you. It won't pop out to you. And that's the kind of the problem that I think a lot of people do when they come in to use a tool like Hotjar, Microsoft Clarity, Crazy Egg, or any of these tools that kind of have a lot of these things. Same thing with GA4, or Matimo, or any of these things. They're like, they come into the platform hoping something jumps out at you. And yes, there are times where they have these insights, but you it's going to be a lot more efficient for you if you have the question, like, are people seeing my call to action? Why are they not going to the cart? What is the problem? Why are they not going to the cart? And all these other things to help you um, optimize. And for another common question that we get is, do we use GA4 or just Clarity? And fun fact, I actually helped a lot of authors last year prepping for a conference, and all they had was Clarity. And we were able to make a lot of great improvements. However, I would encourage you to use it with whatever analytics tool you're also, it's like it's a yes and. Like, use both of them to help you. The other analytics tool, whether GA4 or any of the other ones, can help you kind of pinpoint, where to look, like, oh, it is offer to cart that's not working. Go to Clarity and find out what's going on that offer page or whatnot. And so that's just a pro tip there. And I'm seeing some good questions come through. You mentioned having AI analyze your heat map data. Do you have an AI recommendation? No, I don't. I have, hold on. I might have misspoke. Hold on. I'm going to do my custom date range again. I'm trying to choose date range where I know we didn't make some bunch of crazy changes, because sometimes the heat maps might get a little bit wonky. Let's go into another sales page here. So what you can do is says summarize heat maps. This is the Copilot. So Microsoft's version of their AI. So this is theirs that they can do. So if and you can go through and do this. This is obviously looking at this date range for these heat maps. If we did a filter, we can go through and say only show me Facebook traffic or email traffic, or this email versus that email, or whatever it is. You can go through and do that. What we've used to do before we kind of had these heat map recordings, we could go through and say show details, and we could see all these things. We're like, oh, it's kind of boring. I mean, it's like really nerdy. This nerdy. We don't need all that. Or we can say, hey, summarize this for me. I'm actually going to pause that sucker for you. And so we can summarize it. And what you can do is then copy this, go throw this one in ChatGPT, go do that for 40 other ones, get a VA to do it to 40 other ones, and then hey, summarize these 40 for me, or go throw it into Google Doc and then throw it into ChatGPT or whatever AI tool to say, can you summarize these 40 things for me? So that way you can kind of get an idea of what people are doing or not doing on your page for that. And this is a great another little pro tip for you that everyone can see. Like we're on a cart page, it will always mask. There is no option to unmask. Anything where there's a field you're typing in, it will mask. You can't accidentally violate privacy of any kind. Because even in the settings, let me think here. I don't remember. There's overview. Here we nope. Data. There it is, masking. That's the word I was looking for. I was like, I knew it was really obvious to see. I was thinking it was privacy, but it wasn't. So masking. So you can have a strict, balanced, or relaxed. And so even if you have relaxed, it says by default, all clarity mask all text in blah 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 blah. You cannot, and you go to learn more. Even if you have relaxed, it's still going to mask things that it's supposed to mask. So you don't have to worry about accidentally being uncompliant. And then, is there GA4 integration like with UA? So technically, yes. So this integrations piece, and there is now these other ones. So before it was just GA4, and then all of a sudden it was Google Analytics, and then all of a sudden it was HubSpot, or I said Google and Google Ads, and then HubSpot, and then these other ones are coming up. And then if you're like, hey, I don't see it, so just always, and what you're going to see, it's going to be this little guy, which right now it is just a reflection of the data that you already have in GA4. So the reason this could be awesome is maybe you don't want to give your vendor access to your GA4, but you will let them have your copywriter or whatever, you will let them have access to this. And so they could go through and see a little bit of GA4 data, which by the time they understand clarity really well, a lot of this is redundant data. So it's not extremely useful. And from my understanding, the Google Ads is kind of the same thing. But again, it might be a great way to allow someone who you don't want to have permission to the other platform, they can see the data here. So that's just a way for that. And then someone saying it seems like to be a very powerful tool in your experience. When does the company start to use paid alternatives like Hotjar, Glassbox, etc.? We have yet to come to that. Way back in the day when Hotjar was first began, our old company, MeasureMarketing.io, was actually on the beta, and we had been using Hotjar for years and years and years. And even when a lot of people were like, "Oh, it slows it down" and stuff, we were, strategic when like, "Okay, we're going to start it on the air," and all like just so we were extremely familiar with Hotjar. When Clarity came out, we were kind of like, but is it going to do what Hotjar can? And for the price, you can do so much with this. The only thing that I think Hotjar allows you to do, because Hotjar obviously has lots of limits and things like that, and then do now have a free version. Hotjar does have the free version, which is great. That was a very smart move for them. But I love that Hotjar has polls, which are really useful if you're trying to possibly, let's say, again, sales page or something like that, and someone gets here, but maybe you want to understand, like, if you want to have a question, like, hey, we noticed blah, 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 whatever it is, you can do polls to kind of understand your user behavior better as well. So Hotjar is great with that, but obviously there's other plugins and stuff you can do that too. Another question is Clarity slow down pages. Would you recommend having on every live on every page or just specific pages? Clarity, as of right now, the most current truth, it is not slow down your site. And that's the major reason why we've transitioned every one of our clients to have it on all of their pages, everywhere, all the time, forever, until another tool comes along. And we took it off. And we take off Hotjar. Doesn't mean we won't ever add it back or utilize it, but it is a choice that we made because what Clarity can do and how we use it. But again, as of right now, doesn't mean that Clarity doesn't come up with an update that does accidentally slow down the site, but because they are, again, a bigger company that is going to kind of know the tech side really, really well. And honestly, my first question is like, why is it free? What are they doing it for? What are they doing it for? Maybe you've already can come to the conclusion faster than I did, but this is their version of GA4. This is Microsoft's version of GA4, and it allows them to understand user behavior that the same way that Google understands user behavior because of GA4 and all of that stuff. And that way they can utilize their Bing ads better. So they aren't going to hurt their tool by making it slow down sites because they have the Bing ads. Hotjar and these other tools, they don't have the Bing ads thing. Microsoft does. They want more and more people using this tool so that they understand user behavior and blah, 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 all the things. The same way that Google is a powerhouse with their Google search and their ads and all those things. So that obviously they have not confirmed or denied that, but it's just kind of like, what is the benefit? Why would it be free? We have 2 million hits per month and around 300 pages. I can confirm that we have not been limited or slowed down. GA has slowed down our site in the past, not so clear. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. That's great insights for that. And then you actually just reminded me that there is a quantity of uh, there is a quantity. Hold on, let me see if it actually will say, or it used to. It is part of the courses. I do cover the limitations, the limits on the courses, but I think it is like 1 million sessions or something. It's like something like a lot. And the Samantha, do you get all 2 million? Or maybe it's 10 million. I don't know. It's off the, will it slow down my site? No, not at all. Blah, 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 blah. So, but yeah. Are there any guardrails built in that would allow using this on a logged in internal system? Um, basically does not allow masking feature. That so what you would do, like Iona, like, are you trying to figure out how people are using um the the online platform, or you just don't like? If it were me, I would just make sure that the clarity code isn't on those internal logged in pages. And then that way you wouldn't have to worry about that piece. But if you're trying to understand how they're using it, how people are using the online banking to improve that. Um, does that? Yes. So I'm just reading. So basically, does that masking feature allow scrubbing out personal information like name, but also account balance, blah, 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 which is just a number? Um, it should. Maybe I can let me. I'm grabbing your question, and like my first, you should. Like, let me just go back into our clarity. And I can ask their team too, just to clarify before you put it onto your page. Not that one. Nah, let's grab that one. And nope. Let's go back to our settings and go back to our masking. And we can click on Learn More. And we can double check. The following are the following are the masking characters. The digit, letter, da 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 da. There are masking modes. Strict, the entire content is masked. So that should be it, but it's not a field. It is something that is being displayed. Let me ask the team. I want to ask the Microsoft team like right now, as soon as we're done with this call. And I'm writing down your name and I will let you know inside of the training calendar. I will, once I get the answer, which it might be tomorrow or something like that, I will let you know inside the comments here. So that way you can check back and be like, hey, this is what Microsoft Clarity said about masking things that aren't in a field. I know it can do it in a field, but if it's just part of the page, what does it do? But that's a fantastic question because we actually have other members that do banking stuff and that type of thing, and they have to be really, really careful. Um, yeah, then yeah, so banks typically they don't use online banking. One of this says, for but oh, by the way, you answered it how it's already used. Very cool. But I will find out because I am really curious, like what happens if it's sensitive information that's not a field. Like if it's just like if I went to my account page or something like that and it had all of my account details, is that would we want that like this right here, someone's email? Would we want that visible? This is a public page, but still, would we want that to be all visible? Hope you guys have a great day and ping us inside the student lounge too. That's open for everybody. Let us know if you have any questions and stuff. We're all there to help you. Bye, everyone.